Welcome, traveler. We're glad you're here. Every story you hear is made with care and passion. If you enjoy it, please like, subscribe, and check out the other adventures waiting for you on our channel. Your support means the world. Thank you. We hope you enjoy the story. The torpedo impact drove Admiral Captain Aldrich Thorne into his command rail, as ESS Sovereign's Pride bucked like a wounded animal. Emergency alarms shrieked through smoke-filled corridors while hull plates groaned under plasma fire. Direct hit. "Starboard Section 7!" Lieutenant Commander Kai Raven's voice cut through the chaos. "Armor holding!" Magnetic boot clamps sparked against deck plating as artificial gravity fluctuated. Through the reinforced viewport, Keith plasma bursts painted space in deadly rainbows of superheated gas. "Return fire," Thorne commanded. Raven's targeting systems locked onto the nearest Keth cruiser. Firing main batteries. Thunder rolled through metal corridors as the ship's plasma cannons discharged. Brilliant energy beams lanced across vacuum, striking enemy shields in cascading explosions of light. "Fleet status," Thorne demanded. Lieutenant Nora Stellaris's fingers flew across her navigation console while monitoring 6 other ships through tactical displays. ESS Storm's End taking heavy fire, hull breach in Cargo Bay 7, ESS Dancing Blade executing evasive pattern Delta. Commander Marcus Blackwood coordinated damage reports while ducking as another enemy salvo hammered there. Hull. Iron Resolve reports weapon system damage. Phantom Strike losing engine power. Through the bridge speakers came Commander Magnus Ironwright's voice from engineering. "Admiral, they're hitting us with coordinated fire patterns. Someone taught them our weak points." More Keth plasma bursts streaked past the viewport. ESS Swift. Retribution spiraled through a complex evasion pattern as enemy fire tracked her movements with impossible precision. "They know our tactics," Raven observed, his voice tight with concentration as he fired another salvo. "They're countering our maneuvers before we complete them." The tactical display showed 4 Keth heavy cruisers positioned in perfect defensive formation around their target, a military depot that intelligence had described as lightly defended. Weapon platforms rotated to track Earth ships with mechanical precision. "All ships, pattern Gamma 3, Thorne ordered. "Concentrate fire on depot's power grid." ESS Iron Resolve and Storm's End moved into flanking positions while the 3 fast attack ships, Swift Retribution, Dancing Blade, and Phantom Strike, conducted harassment runs against Keth cruisers. Plasma fire converged on the depot's energy distribution nodes. Explosions rippled across the station's hull as systems overloaded. Secondary detonations cascaded through its structure as fuel stores and ammunition magazines ignited. Within minutes, nothing remained but expanding debris and radiation signatures. "Target destroyed," Raven confirmed. But the cost had been brutal. ESS Storm's End trailed atmosphere from 3 hull breaches. ESS Phantom Strike limped on reduced power. Casualty reports flooded the communication channels. Thorne surveyed the tactical aftermath while emergency teams worked to save damaged ships. The Keth had fought with precision and coordination that shouldn't have been possible. Commander Lydia Something Cross pressed synthetic skin grafts against Petty Officer Reeves's plasma-burned arm while her medical scanner mapped tissue damage. The young man's face was pale with shock, but he'd live. 3rd-degree burns across 40% of the affected area, she murmured to her assistant. "Start him on cellular regeneration therapy." The medical bay's reinforced windows showed twisted metal fragments where the Keth depot had been. Emergency shuttles moved between ships, transferring wounded crew members for treatment. "All department heads to Admiral's ready room," came the announcement through ship communications. Cross sealed her medical scanner and checked the treatment schedule. 12 wounded across the fleet, 2 critical. The battle had lasted only 20 minutes. But plasma weapons didn't distinguish between armor and flesh. The corridors hummed with repair activity. Damage control teams hauled replacement hull plating, while atmospheric engineers checked for micro-fractures in the ship's pressure hull. ESS Sovereign's Pride had taken 6 direct hits, each one potentially fatal if the armor had failed. Admiral Thorne's ready room adjoined the bridge, its walls dominated by tactical displays showing fleet positions and damage assessments. The gathered department heads represented the senior command structure, each responsible for keeping 7 ships operational in hostile space, months from Earth. Casualties? Thorne asked without preamble. Cross consulted her medical tablet. 87 casualties across the fleet. 23 dead, including engineering specialist Patel on Storm's End, gunner's mate Torres on Iron Resolve, and plasma technician Kim on Dancing Blade. 64 wounded, including Petty Officer Martinez, with severe plasma burns. Multiple crew members suffered decompression injuries when hull plating buckled. Engineering assessment? Commander Ironwright's weathered face showed the strain of managing battle damage across 7 ships. Storm's End needs major hull repairs. 3. Breaches, 2 involving structural supports. Phantom Strike has engine damage that's reduced her to 60% power. Iron Resolve lost her forward plasma cannon when a direct hit overloaded the firing chamber. Thorne studied the holographic fleet display. Red indicators marked damaged systems, while yellow warnings highlighted areas requiring immediate attention. How? Long for repairs? Storm's End needs a week minimum for proper structural work. Phantom Strike, maybe 4 days if we can fabricate replacement components. Iron Resolve, her weapon system needs parts we don't have. Navigation status? Stellaris. Straightened, her young face serious. Current position stable. No additional enemy contacts on long-range sensors. Fuel consumption exceeded projections by 18% due to extended combat maneuvering. Intelligence analysis. Lieutenant Commander Zara Voss moved to the tactical display, highlighting Keth ship positions during the engagement. The enemy fought with tactical coordination that suggests detailed advanced knowledge of our capabilities, Admiral. Explain. They positioned their ships to counter our standard attack formations. Their weapon targeting focused on specific vulnerable points in our hull design. Their defensive patterns were optimized to neutralize our tactical advantages. Major Kane Steele leaned forward. My Marines boarded the depot during the final assault. The station had been reinforced with additional crew and supplies within the past week. Someone knew we were coming. Evidence, duty rosters, supply distribution. Records, crew quarters configured for twice normal complement. The depot wasn't just defended, it was prepared specifically for our attack. The ready room fell silent except for the background hum of damaged systems cycling through repair diagnostics. Someone had provided the Keth with detailed information about Earth fleet capabilities and operational timing. Assessment options, Thorne said quietly. Voss consulted her intelligence tablet. 3 possibilities, Admiral. First, the Keth have developed intelligence-gathering capabilities we've underestimated. Second, someone with access to our operational planning provided advance warning. Third, this represents coordinated enemy intelligence sharing between multiple powers. The tactical evidence indicates systematic advance preparation, not improved capabilities or lucky intelligence gathering. The Keth knew our ship specifications, weapon capabilities, and standard tactical doctrine. Blackwood shifted uncomfortably. Our orders came from Earth Command 3 months ago. Security classification was restricted to senior staff level, meaning a limited number of people had access to our mission planning, Voss concluded. Through the Ready Room's communication panel came a request for Admiral Thorne. Sir, Lieutenant Commander Crawford, requesting permission to come aboard. Crawford, Blackwood, consulted his personnel roster. New assignment, Admiral. Frontier Relations Specialist. Her shuttle arrived during the engagement. Send her in. The door slid open to reveal a young officer whose pristine uniform showed no wear from Frontier service. Lieutenant Commander Elena Crawford carried herself with academy precision, her equipment showing the careful maintenance of someone who hadn't yet learned the realities of operating beyond Earth's support network. Admiral Thorne, Crawford said, offering a regulation salute. Lieutenant Commander Crawford reporting for duty. I apologize for the delayed arrival. My shuttle maintained safe distance during combat operations. Thorne returned the salute while studying the new officer. Your assignment, Commander. Crawford produced a sealed data tablet containing her orders. I'm assigned as Frontier Relations Specialist for this patrol sector, Admiral. My mission involves assessing the diplomatic and humanitarian implications of military operations in contested space. The department heads exchanged glances. Crawford represented something new. Earth Command's attempt to apply peacetime oversight to wartime operations conducted months from any oversight. You observed the engagement? Blackwood asked. From my shuttle, yes. 12 casualties for the EU. Destruction of a supply depot. I'm required to evaluate whether alternative approaches might achieve strategic objectives with reduced humanitarian impact. Steele's expression hardened. Alternative approaches? Diplomatic contact, economic pressure, negotiated settlement. Military action should be the final option after exhausting peaceful alternatives. Commander Crawford, Cross interjected. The Keth opened fire the moment we approached their depot. We responded to enemy aggression. But according to my briefing, materials, this facility was described as lightly defended. Surely the intelligence failure suggests inadequate preparation rather than enemy hostility. Voss consulted her analysis. Commander, the depot was defended by 4 heavy cruisers and multiple weapon platforms. That level of preparation indicates they knew we were coming. Crawford frowned. Are you suggesting deliberate intelligence compromise? I'm suggesting the tactical evidence doesn't support accidental preparation, Voss replied carefully. Thorne studied Crawford while considering the implications of her assignment. She represented Earth Command's evolving priorities. The transition from wartime military action to peacetime diplomatic expansion. But Frontier Space operated under different rules. Commander Crawford, you'll have full access to observe our operations. Learn how things work out here before filing recommendations. Thank you, Admiral. After Crawford left the ready room, she made her way to Commander Blackwood's office. As executive officer, he managed day-to-day operations and personnel assignments. Crawford had been with the fleet since departure from Earth 3 months ago, but the depot engagement was her first real combat experience. Lieutenant Crawford, Blackwood greeted her. That was quite an introduction to frontier combat. It wasn't what I expected, sir. The intelligence described a lightly defended facility, but we faced coordinated resistance from multiple heavy cruisers. Blackwood gestured to a chair. Welcome to frontier operations. Intelligence gets old fast out here and conditions change while we're traveling between systems. But the casualties, 23 dead, 64 wounded. There must be protocols. For verifying intelligence before conducting operations? With what resources? We're operating months from any support. Our choice is to execute our mission based on available information or turn around and head home. Crawford consulted her notes from observing the engagement. The crew performed exceptionally under pressure, but surely Earth Command needs to know about the intelligence failure? They'll know when we return to Earth in 8 months. Until then, we adapt to conditions as we find them. Commander Voss, begin a comprehensive security review. Personnel records, communication logs, operational procedures. I want to know how the Keth acquired advance intelligence about our mission. Yes, sir. Quietly? Very quietly. If we have a security breach, I don't want to alert whoever is responsible. Understood. Department heads, prepare for extended operations under the assumption that enemy forces have advanced knowledge of our capabilities. Modify standard procedures accordingly. The meeting dispersed, leaving Thorne alone with his tactical displays. The depot mission was complete. Enemy supplies destroyed, strategic objectives achieved. But the questions raised by Keth preparedness would affect every future operation. If their enemies knew they were coming, every mission became a potential around-the-clock, feeding 3 shifts across 7 ships. Lieutenant Crawford found herself sharing a meal period with junior officers whose specialties she was learning to understand. At the central table, she observed senior staff consulting with each other. Admiral Thorne discussed tactical modifications with his department heads while reviewing their remaining mission objectives. First time seeing Frontier Command? Asked Lieutenant Torres from the Navigation Department. I'm trying to understand how autonomous operations differ from Earth-based protocols. Torres gestured toward the senior staff table. Out here, Following Earth protocols gets people killed. The Admiral makes decisions based on current conditions, not regulations written months ago. Crawford watched Admiral Thorne listen to Lieutenant Commander Voss explain something using salt shakers to represent tactical positions. The informal discussion represented decision-making processes that would never occur in Earth Command facilities. How? Does he maintain authority without formal oversight? Results, sir. When survival depends on correct decisions, competence earns authority faster than rank insignia. Crawford studied the interaction patterns around Thorne's table. Commander Blackwood mediated between competing viewpoints while maintaining focus on practical solutions. Raven provided mathematical analysis of tactical options. Voss offered intelligence assessments based on incomplete information. Each department head contributed specialized expertise while deferring to Thorne's ultimate authority. The depot engagement, Crawford said carefully. Was the level of enemy resistance typical? Torres's expression darkened. No, sir. The Keth fought like they'd memorized our tactical procedures. That's not normal. After the meal period, Crawford continued her observations of fleet operations. Each department operated with efficiency born from experience rather than regulation compliance. Commander Ironwright supervised repair teams working on damaged hull sections. His hands moved with the confidence of decades managing Starship systems under impossible conditions. Commander Crawford, he acknowledged without stopping his work. Come to see how we fix things without proper shipyard facilities? I'm trying to understand the operational constraints of frontier service. Ironwright gestured to replacement hull plating. This should be molecularly bonded titanium steel composite manufactured in orbital facilities. Instead, we're using salvaged materials and improvised bonding techniques. It'll hold, but it's not regulation standard. Is that safe? Safer than having hull breaches. Ironwright's patient tone suggested he'd explained similar concepts many times. Out here, perfect solutions don't exist. We make things work with available resources. Crawford watched the repair team work with practiced efficiency. Their coordination came from experience rather than formal training protocols. Each crew member anticipated others' needs, tools, and materials moving between them without verbal communication. How do you maintain quality standards without regulation compliance? Results are the only standard that matters, Ironwright replied. If the repair holds under combat stress, it's adequate. If it fails, people die. Simple mathematics. From engineering, Crawford moved to the medical bay. Commander Cross was reviewing casualty reports while monitoring the 2 Keth prisoners captured during the depot assault. Commander Crawford, how can I assist you? I wanted to understand medical protocols for treating enemy personnel. Cross gestured to isolation chambers where automated systems monitored the prisoners' vital signs. Plasma burns, decompression injuries, blunt force trauma from hull debris. I treat them exactly the same as our own crew. Despite being enemy combatants, medical ethics transcend political affiliations. My oath requires preserving life regardless of uniform color or national origin. Crawford observed the medical equipment, maintaining the prisoner's health. Do they provide intelligence information? That's Commander Voss's responsibility after they're medically stable. I focus on healing. Has their treatment affected their cooperation with intelligence gathering? Cross considered the question. They're surprised to be alive. Keth military doctrine assumes enemies will execute prisoners or leave them to die. Their surprise has made them more willing to cooperate with debriefing procedures. The medical bay's communication system activated. Emergency medical team to Shuttle Bay 2. Radiation exposure incident. Cross moved immediately toward the exit. Excuse me, Commander. Crawford followed at appropriate distance as Cross assembled. Her emergency response team. The shuttle bay housed small craft used for intership transport and specialized operations requiring atmospheric entry. A maintenance shuttle had returned from ESS Storm's End, carrying a crew member with severe radiation exposure from damaged shielding systems. Cross's team worked with practiced coordination, stabilizing the patient before transport to the medical bay's specialized treatment facility. Radiation levels? Cross asked her chief medical technician. Approaching critical threshold. He was exposed during hull repair operations when containment shielding failed catastrophically. Crawford watched the medical team's efficient response. Their coordination reflected the same practical competence she'd observed throughout the ship. Experience replacing formal protocol. Results taking priority over procedural compliance. As they moved the patient to intensive care, Crawford encountered Major Steele conducting a security briefing revealed systematic enemy knowledge of our tactical capabilities, Steele explained to his assembled Marines. Future operations will assume hostile forces have detailed advance intelligence about our procedures and equipment. Sergeant Martinez raised her hand. Sir, does that include our boarding and assault procedures? Assume yes. We're developing modified assault patterns that don't follow standard doctrine. A Marine corporal asked, Sir, if they know our capabilities, doesn't that suggest deliberate intelligence compromise rather than accidental preparation? That determination exceeds our security clearance, Corporal. Our responsibility involves adapting tactics to maintain operational effectiveness, regardless of the intelligence situation. Crawford listened as Steele outlined contingency plans for operations where enemy forces possessed detailed knowledge of Earth military procedures. The briefing included alternative assault techniques, modified communication protocols, and equipment configuration changes designed to counter enemy advance preparation. Questions about operational procedures? Steele asked. Sir, asked Marine. Corporal Chen, how do we maintain tactical surprise if the enemy knows our standard approaches? By developing non-standard approaches. Creativity becomes a tactical necessity when conventional doctrine is compromised. After the briefing, Crawford approached Steele privately. Major, what are the strategic implications if enemy forces have systematic advance intelligence? Steele's response reflected professional caution. Strategic assessment exceeds my authority, Commander. Tactically, it means every operation becomes more dangerous and requires more resources to achieve the same objectives. How does Admiral Thorne handle that level of operational uncertainty? The Admiral makes decisions based on crew safety and mission success using available information. He doesn't have the luxury of complete intelligence or clear guidance from Earth Command. Surely there are established protocols for handling compromised operations. Commander, protocols developed on Earth can't account for frontier realities. The Admiral interprets broad strategic guidance and translates it into tactical action while operating months away from any support or oversight. Crawford spent the remainder of her duty period observing different departments. In each case, she discovered the same patterns. Formal procedures adapted to frontier conditions. Practical experience replacing regulation compliance. Operational results prioritized over administrative requirements. The crew's loyalty to Admiral Thorne wasn't based on rank authority or institutional hierarchy. It was earned through competent leadership under impossible circumstances, personal responsibility for crew welfare, and consistently correct decisions when survival depended on tactical accuracy. By evening shift, Crawford had begun understanding why Earth Command's peacetime oversight structures might not translate effectively to frontier operations. The isolation, resource limitations, communication delays, and tactical uncertainty required different approaches to command authority and provided panoramic views of the fleet conducting post-battle operations. ESS Storm's End hung in space surrounded by repair shuttles, their work lights creating geometric patterns against her damaged hull. External repair. Teams moved across the cruiser's surface like tiny figures in environmental suits, their welding equipment producing brief flares of brilliance. Admiral Thorne stood before the massive viewport, studying the systematic efficiency of damage control operations. Each ship in his fleet represented thousands of crew members whose lives depended on his tactical decisions and strategic judgment. Admiral, Commander Voss approached carrying her intelligence assessment. I've completed the preliminary security review. Findings? No evidence of communication interception or personnel security breaches within the fleet itself. However, The tactical evidence strongly suggests enemy forces had detailed advanced knowledge of our operational plan. Thorne turned from the viewport. How detailed? They knew our approach vectors, standard attack formations, ship specifications, weapon capabilities, and operational timing. That level of intelligence requires access to classified mission planning documents, which were restricted to senior Earth command staff and operational commanders. Correct, sir. Distribution was limited to individuals with strategic planning authority and direct operational responsibility. The implications extended beyond their current mission. If mission planning had been compromised at Earth command level, it suggested security breaches affecting multiple operations across different sectors. Assessment of probability. Voss consulted her analysis. 3 scenarios, Admiral. First, the Keth have developed intelligence capabilities far exceeding our estimates. Second, someone with access to operational planning provided advance warning to enemy forces. Third, multiple powers are sharing intelligence to counter Earth expansion. Most likely scenario. The systematic nature of enemy preparation suggests deliberate information sharing rather than improved capabilities or accidental intelligence gathering. Someone told them we were coming. Through the observation lounge's communication system came Commander Crawford's request for permission to join the discussion. Thorne gestured for Voss to admit her. Crawford entered carrying comprehensive notes from her day-long observation of fleet operations. Admiral, I wanted to present my preliminary assessment of Frontier Command effectiveness. Proceed, Commander. The crew demonstrates exceptional professional competence under conditions that would challenge any Earth-based command structure. The informal coordination, resource improvisation, and tactical adaptation reflect high-level expertise rather than regulation violations. Thorne waited for the complete assessment. The command structure operates through earned authority rather than institutional hierarchy. Crew loyalty is based on demonstrated competence and personal responsibility for their welfare. Crawford moved to the viewport, studying repair operations on ESS Storm's End. The decision-making process prioritizes operational effectiveness over administrative compliance, which appears necessary given the communication delays and resource constraints. Your recommendation to Earth Command? Crawford considered her response carefully. That frontier operations require command autonomy that cannot be effectively managed through standard oversight procedures. The tactical uncertainty, resource limitations, and communication delays demand decision-making authority that exceeds normal operational parameters. Voss and Thorne exchanged glances. Crawford's assessment supported the arguments for continued autonomous frontier operations while acknowledging the realities that made such autonomy necessary. Commander Crawford, Voss said, how would you evaluate the intelligence security implications of today's engagement? In what context? Enemy forces demonstrated advanced knowledge of our attack plan. From a diplomatic perspective, what does that suggest about the strategic situation? Crawford consulted her notes. If hostile forces can predict Earth military operations, it fundamentally alters the effectiveness of our expansion strategy. If they're receiving intelligence from external sources, it indicates broader political complications affecting multiple theaters. Specific implications? Reduced tactical effectiveness, increased operational costs, higher casualty rates, and decreased strategic surprise. It also suggests potential coordination between powers that might otherwise compete with each other. The observation lounge's communication system activated with a priority alert. Admiral to bridge. Incoming transmission from Earth Command courier drone. The 3 officers moved quickly to the bridge, where Lieutenant Stellaris coordinated. Communication protocols with the fleet's other vessels. Authentication status? Thorne asked. Confirmed Earth Command priority transmission, Admiral. Message encryption verified through standard protocols. The fleet's transfer to secure communication center adjoined the bridge. Its systems designed for processing sensitive transmissions from Earth. The courier drone had traveled for weeks to deliver updated orders and intelligence assessments. Decryption complete, announced the communication technician. Message authenticated from Fleet Operations Command. Thorne activated the holographic display system. Admiral Sarah Chen, Fleet Operations Coordinator and sister to Commander Blackwood, appeared in blue-tinted projection. Admiral Thorne, this message is dated 78 days after your departure from Earth space. Recent intelligence indicates increased military activity by Keth forces in your operational sector. Exercise enhanced caution in conducting offensive operations. Political situation with Keth Dominion remains fluid. Avoid actions that might be interpreted as escalation beyond current conflict parameters. Updated strategic guidance attached. The message continued with detailed intelligence assessments and modified operational priorities, but the central concern was clear. Earth Command wanted to avoid escalating tensions with former enemies. Enhanced caution, Thorne mused after the message concluded. 21 days after our departure. Crawford frowned. Admiral, if Earth Command was concerned about escalation, why weren't those concerns included in our original operational orders? Because political situations evolve faster than communication systems allow, Voss replied. By the time we receive updated guidance, we've already conducted operations that the new guidance might have modified or prohibited. Thorne studied the tactical display showing their current position and the debris field marking the destroyed Keth depot. Commander Crawford, from a diplomatic perspective, how would Keth forces interpret today's engagement? As evidence that Earth continues aggressive military operations despite potential diplomatic communications. If they were expecting policy changes or peaceful overtures, destroying their depot sends the opposite message. But we had no knowledge of diplomatic initiatives, Thorne pointed out. Our orders explicitly required conducting the depot destruction mission. The communication system activated again. Admiral, incoming transmission from ESS Iron Resolve. Captain Torres requests immediate conference. Put him through. Captain Torres's voice carried unusual tension. Admiral, my communications officer has detected anomalous signal transmissions from the destroyed depot site. Automated emergency beacons activating on delayed schedules. Explanation? The depot had backup communication systems that survived initial destruction. They're now broadcasting detailed tactical data about our engagement, ship configurations, weapon signatures, tactical formations, damage assessments. Voss moved to her intelligence console. Admiral, if those transmissions reach other installations, our tactical capabilities will be completely compromised for future operations. Can we jam the signals? Negative, sir, Stellaris reported. The transmission frequencies are encrypted and distributed across multiple communication channels. We'd need specialized jamming equipment that we don't carry. Thorne made the tactical decision with characteristic speed. All ships, destroy remaining debris. Full bombardment until all signal sources are eliminated. The fleet's weapon systems engage the debris field systematically. Plasma fire targeted every piece of wreckage large enough to contain communication equipment. The bombardment continued for 30 minutes until sensors confirmed complete elimination of all signal transmissions. All active transmissions terminated. Raven reported from the tactical station. But significant damage had already occurred. For 30 minutes, the depot's automated intelligence gathering systems had broadcast comprehensive tactical data about Earth fleet capabilities to any receiving station within communication range. Intelligence assessment, Thorne requested. Voss analyzed the implications. Hostile forces now possess detailed tactical data about our current fleet configuration, weapon capabilities, defensive systems, and operational procedures. That information will be distributed throughout their command structure. Operational impact? Every future engagement will face enemies who know exactly what we're capable of and how we typically operate. Our tactical advantages are now compromised. Crawford looked troubled. Admiral, this confirms that the depot was specifically prepared for intelligence gathering during our attack. The automated systems were pre-positioned to collect tactical data during the engagement. Thorne nodded grimly. Someone provided advance warning, and they used our attack as an intelligence collection opportunity. The implications extended far beyond their immediate mission. If Earth fleet operations were being systematically monitored and analyzed, the strategic advantages of superior training and technological capabilities would be neutralized by enemy advanced knowledge. Fleet status? Thorne asked. All ships operational, Admiral. Repairs proceeding on schedule. No additional enemy contacts detected. Set course for next operational objective. Assume all future operations are conducted under enemy surveillance. Modify procedures accordingly. Yes, sir. As the fleet prepared to depart the Suakin system, fundamental questions remained unanswered. Someone had provided detailed intelligence about their mission to enemy forces. The attack had been used as an opportunity to gather comprehensive data about Earth fleet capabilities. Communication delays meant months would pass before Earth Command could be informed of the security breach and provide updated guidance. Admiral Thorne and his 7 ships would continue their mission alone, operating under the assumption that hostile forces possess detailed advanced knowledge of their capabilities and intentions. In her quarters, Commander Crawford compiled her comprehensive report to Earth Command. Her assessment confirmed that frontier operations required autonomous command authority, while revealing that those operations were being conducted under systematic enemy surveillance that fundamentally compromised their effectiveness. The intelligence. War had begun, and Earth was losing battles. The fleet maintained formation in empty space between star systems. ESS Storm's End had completed emergency repairs, her hull patched with salvaged materials and improvised reinforcements that restored basic structural integrity to barely acceptable levels. In Admiral Thorne's ready room, senior staff conducted their regular strategic assessment. The holographic display showed their projected course through contested space, marked with known installations and estimated enemy positions. Intelligence summary, Voss reported. Analysis of the depot engagement confirms systematic enemy preparation, extending beyond tactical readiness. The Kith were prepared specifically for our attack profile, timing, and capabilities. Supporting evidence? Interrogation of our prisoners reveals their command structure received detailed briefings about Earth fleet operations approximately 1 week before our arrival. Someone provided comprehensive intelligence about our mission. Thorne studied the tactical analysis. Implications for future operations? Raven consulted his assessment. We must assume enemy forces have detailed knowledge of Earth fleet capabilities and standard operational procedures. Traditional attack formations are compromised. We're developing alternative tactical approaches that don't follow established doctrine. Engineering status across the fleet? Ironwright's report reflected the grim realities of frontier repairs. All ships operational, Admiral. Storm's End. Patches are holding but need proper shipyard work eventually. We've jury-rigged temporary solutions using available materials. It's functional but not pretty. Medical assessment? Cross reported ongoing medical concerns. The 3 crew members killed in action have been processed according to military protocols. All wounded personnel are recovering, though Martinez will need weeks of treatment for his plasma burns. The Keth prisoners have provided useful information during interrogation. Commander Crawford, Thorne said, your assessment after observing today's operations? Crawford had spent the day observing fleet operations, from combat procedures to damage control. Her understanding of Frontier Command had begun to evolve. Admiral, the crew operates with exceptional professional competence under conditions requiring constant adaptation and innovation. The command structure reflects practical necessities rather than administrative preferences, and the informal coordination systems achieve results that formal procedures couldn't match under these circumstances. Specific observations. Decision-making processes prioritize operational effectiveness and crew safety over administrative compliance. The command authority is earned through demonstrated competence rather than institutional hierarchy. Resource. Management involves creative solutions that exceed regulation standards while maintaining safety margins. Blackwood smiled slightly. Crawford had learned the fundamental reality of frontier service. Regulations developed in comfortable Earth facilities couldn't account for the practical challenges of combat operations conducted months from any support infrastructure. Recommendation to Earth Command: that frontier operations require command autonomy and resource flexibility that cannot be effectively managed through standard oversight procedures. The communication delays, tactical uncertainty, and resource constraints demand decision-making, authority that exceeds normal operational parameters. Her comprehensive Any additional notes. Concerns? The intelligence security situation represents a fundamental threat to operational effectiveness. If enemy forces continue to receive advance warning about our operations, the strategic objectives of frontier expansion become significantly more difficult and costly to achieve. Voss nodded agreement. I've continued the security investigation, Admiral. The pattern of enemy advance knowledge indicates systematic intelligence gathering over an extended period. Someone has been monitoring our operations since departure from Earth space. Evidence? Communication analysis, operational timing, enemy preparation levels, and tactical coordination all suggest ongoing surveillance rather than isolated intelligence gathering. Our movements have been tracked consistently. The ready room fell silent as the implications became clear. If their operations had been under systematic surveillance since leaving Earth, every mission was potentially compromised from the planning. Stage. Continue the investigation, Commander. Expand the scope to include all fleet communications and personnel records. Yes, sir. Additional business? Lieutenant Stellaris requested permission to speak. Admiral, I've been analyzing our navigation, routes, and fuel consumption patterns. If we continue current operations while adapting to enemy advance knowledge, our supply margins will become critical within 6 weeks. Explanation? The tactical modifications required to counter enemy preparation, increase fuel consumption, and operational time. Extended engagements, evasive maneuvering, and modified approach patterns all require additional resources. Ironwright confirmed the assessment. She's right, Admiral. Adapting to compromised intelligence doubles our resource consumption for equivalent tactical results. Thorne studied the strategic display showing their remaining operational area and projected supply requirements. Options: reduce operational tempo, modify mission objectives, or request emergency resupply, Stellaris replied. Emergency resupply requires 6 weeks minimum transit time from the nearest Earth facility, Blackwood added. We'd be operating on minimum reserves before any support could arrive. Crawford observed the discussion with growing understanding. Frontier operations involved constant balance between mission requirements and resource limitations, complicated by enemy intelligence that increased the cost of every tactical decision. Decision parameters? Thorne asked. Voss consulted her strategic analysis. If we continue current operations while assuming enemy advance knowledge, we'll achieve reduced tactical effectiveness at increased operational cost. If we modify mission objectives to account for resource constraints, we may not achieve strategic objectives within the allocated time frame. Alternative approaches: develop tactical innovations that counter enemy advance knowledge while reducing resource consumption. Focus on objectives that maximize strategic impact relative to operational cost. Accept higher tactical risk to maintain resource efficiency. Thorne considered the options while studying fleet status displays. 7 ships, thousands of crew members operating far beyond Earth's support network, with enemies who knew their capabilities and intentions. Recommendations? Raven spoke first. Tactical unpredictability. Abandon standard procedures and develop improvised attack patterns they haven't studied. Ironwright added, resource conservation. Make what we have last longer through careful rationing and maintenance. Cross suggested, medical preparation. Assume higher casualty rates due to enemy advance knowledge and prepare accordingly. Voss concluded, intelligence countermeasures. Develop operational security procedures that limit enemy advance knowledge of future missions. Thorne nodded. Implement all recommendations. We continue the mission with modified procedures designed to counter systematic enemy intelligence while managing resource constraints. Yes, sir. As the meeting concluded, Crawford remained behind. Admiral, may I ask about the strategic implications of continuing operations under these conditions? What do you mean, Commander? If enemy forces have systematic advance intelligence about our operations, and if our resource consumption is increasing while tactical effectiveness decreases, at what point does continuing the mission become counterproductive? Thorne considered the question carefully. When the strategic costs exceed the strategic benefits. But that determination requires information we don't have, and communication with Earth Command that won't be possible for months. So you're making strategic decisions based on incomplete information. Commander, that's the nature of Frontier Command. Every decision is made with incomplete information, inadequate resources, and uncertain support. The alternative is abandoning our mission and returning to Earth with objectives unachieved. Crawford consulted her notes. And abandoning the mission would send what message to hostile forces? That Earth lacks the resolve to maintain frontier expansion in the face of organized opposition, which would encourage further resistance to future operations? Correct. Crawford finally understood the strategic trap of frontier operations. Withdrawing signaled weakness that invited aggression. Continuing despite compromised intelligence invited systematic attrition. Success required tactical innovation under impossible conditions. Thank you for the clarification, Admiral. After Crawford left, Thorne remained in his ready room studying the strategic displays. The next objective lay 10 days distant, another installation marked for destruction according to orders that were now 4 months old. He would conduct that mission assuming enemies knew they were coming, adapting Earth tactics to counter systematic intelligence compromise, managing resource constraints that threatened mission completion. The depot at Suakin had been destroyed, demonstrating Earth's continued pressure on former enemies, but the tactical cost exceeded projections, and the intelligence implications threatened all future operations. Such was the nature of Frontier Command, achieving strategic objectives under conditions that made success increasingly difficult, bearing responsibility for decisions that wouldn't be evaluated by Earth Command for months, maintaining crew morale while operating under systematic enemy surveillance. The fleet's engines engaged, and 7 ships disappeared into hyperspace, carrying Earth's expansion ambitions toward an uncertain future, where enemies held every advantage except the determination of human crews to complete their impossible mission.